Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and next up on our Game of Thrones rewatch series, singling out epic, game-changing moments, is the final scene of Season 1, the birth of Daenerys' dragons. Something we can only show you limited shots of here because, yeah, there's a lot of skin in this show. Do you ever notice how all HBO shows are trying to make us more okay with this? It's like they're turning the world into a nudist colony. Good for you guys. But unfortunately for Emilia Clarke, Daenerys' birthday suit is actually important to the story here. This moment isn't just a personal triumph for the character, it's her symbolic birth as the series' true hero. And interestingly, the closest match the show has provided to the mystery of who is Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised. I'm gonna dig deep into all this stuff, look back on the cool ways the series led up to this moment, and a few things you might have missed the first time you watched it. And it should go without saying, spoilers ahead for all episodes of Game of Thrones. Okay, I should start by reminding us all how shocking this reveal was. By now, we've all been spoiled by eye-popping visuals of full-grown dragons, torching armies and fleets and giant ice walls. Oh, another dragon? Call me when it turns into a zombie. But back in Season 1, the hatching of Dany's dragons completely changed the rules of magic in the world of Game of Thrones. Sure, the cold open introduced us to the existence of undead White Walkers, a supernatural threat Jon Snow's later scuffle with the White proved to be legitimate. But I would say while the enemy up north remained a mystery throughout Season 1, this closing image even more dramatically subverted the assumptions of pretty much every character on the show to this point, that the Targaryens' dragons were gone and never coming back.
Dragon gone, Khaleesi? No dragon. Brave men killed them. It is known.
Is known.
Between these opening and closing bookends, it was easy to get lost in the political drama between the families, but this closing shot reminds us that these nasty people we've gotten to know and love have actual epic forces that they can unleash on each other, which, like a baby with a bazooka, is a little terrifying. Like any good shocker, this moment works because it both contradicts what characters have promised us while paying off the inevitability of the clues the show has laid out for us. So let's look at those foreshadowing moments. In my analysis of Viserys' golden crown moment in episode 6, I pointed out how that was a payoff of Dany's gradual realization that she, not her brother, possesses the blood of the dragon and thus cannot be burnt. This power grows within her while she develops an obsession with her dragon eggs, given to her by Illyrio on her wedding day.
The ages have turned them to stone, but they will always be beautiful.
As Daenerys struggles to transition into a Dothraki Khaleesi, these eggs provide her with strength. She stares at them almost hypnotically while with Khal Drogo, as if they contain the reward of the struggles she has to go through. Of course, Khal Drogo's bloodthirst made him not long for this world, but he left Dany with a very powerful instinct, the desire to be a mother. So when her experiment to bring him back fails and she loses her baby, the dragons must fill that void for her. If you look closely at this scene, when Jorah finds her in the ashes, the dragons are breastfeeding like newborn infants, a detail pulled directly from George R. R. Martin's book. Now, it's a little unsettling because these dragons are presumably reptiles, not mammals, but I think it just speaks to the weirdly biological connection between Dany and her babies. Really, her behavior here almost seems like a form of postpartum depression. Her function is that of a mother now, and she'll get her stallion who mounts the world one way or another. But there are three details I really liked about this sequence. First is a deviation from the books. Notice how after Drogo's funeral pyre burns out, Dany's skin and hair remain unburnt. In the books, her hair mostly burns away, but the show left Dany's braid intact. I think this is because of the way the show used Dany's hair as her Dothraki jahak, the long braid Dothraki warriors wear that never gets cut unless they lose in battle. Since this moment is essentially a massive victory for Dany, it makes visual sense for her braid to remain unsevered and to continue to grow with complexity as the series goes on. Another detail here is the music. Composer Ramin Djawadi said that earlier in Season 1, the House Targaryen theme plays in a few instances, and it's hard to pick up, played with just one instrument at a time, like a cello. But later in this big finale, Djawadi fills the theme with instrumentation and percussion, including Japanese Takio-inspired drums, an Indonesian hanging drum called the bedug, and an Armenian woodwind instrument called a duduk. And yeah, I probably mispronounced some of those. And the end result of all this instrumentation is a feeling that's deeply primal and threatening. The third detail I noticed in this sequence involves Dany's fiery demeanor. Look at her face as she condemns Mirri Maz Dur to being burned to death.
You will not hear me scream.
I will. It is not your screams I want. Only your life.
The torchlight flickers on Dany's face, giving her a devilish quality. This will be the first of many times Dany uses fire like this to bring vengeance on those who have wronged her, including her sack of Astapor, her punishment of the Meereen slavers, and her coup in Vaes Dothrak in Season 6, which is essentially a recreation of this moment. But I think the most lasting effect of these final shots is the way they answer the supernatural threat presented in the season's opening moments. This is kind of like a bell ringing in a boxing match. In one corner of the world, humanity is being threatened by ice. Meanwhile, in the opposite corner of the world, a potentially equal threat has arrived to challenge it with fire. It's just one of the many examples of the motif stemming from the book series' name, A Song of Coldness and Heat. That's not what it's called? I can't read. And if we look at the White Walkers as a series' ultimate villains, this makes Dany the ultimate hero. Actually, looking back on this moment, pretty much everything here sets up Dany as the prophesied Azor Ahai reborn, also known as the Prince that was promised. For years, book readers debated whether these two mythed figures were the same figure, and now that appears to be the case. And it remains a pretty big mystery on the show and in the books, but here's what they've told us so far about these prophecies. It is said that the person will be born after a long summer beneath the bleeding star amidst salt and smoke when the cold breath of darkness falls upon the world. The person will wake dragons from stone and wield a burning sword called Lightbringer. According to the books, the figure would be a Targaryen, a descendant of Aerys II and Rhaella. In fact, Dany's older brother Rhaegar was thought by many to be the prince that was promised. That was before he got a... Also, the books and the recent season of the show provided some clarification on the gender of this figure.
The prince who is promised will bring the dawn.
Your Grace, forgive me, but your translation is not quite accurate. That noun has no gender in High Valyrian, so the proper translation for that prophecy would be the prince or princess.
And if we look at the birth of Dany's dragons as a symbolic birth of her as a hero, it definitely looks like Daenerys is fulfilling this prophecy. This symbolic birth would be occurring at the end of a long summer beneath a bleeding star. Remember the red comet that appears in the sky shortly after this in Season 2. It's definitely amidst the smoke of Drogo's funeral pyre, though we would need a CSI crew to see if we can find any salt in these ashes. Maybe the saltiness of her tears for Drogo or Miri's tears. But she definitely awakens dragons from stone, and of course, Daenerys is a descendant of Aerys II and Rhaella. All she's really missing is a burning sword, which some believe could be a metaphor for Jon Snow. Now, of course, he's also a Targaryen descendant. Yeah, I know, a lot of incest going on here. And given the amount of times he's come back from death, one time from the power of the Lord of Light religion, where the Azor Ahai prophecy stems from, you could definitely make a case for Jon being this figure too. Ultimately, it seems like the show is setting up both of these heroes to jointly serve as the prophesied heroes. Then again, part of me thinks the show won't really spend too much of its final 6 episodes on this chosen one prophecy, leaving it maybe as some interesting background for these characters to defy and forge their own paths. That said, the fact that this moment at least paints Daenerys Targaryen as the frontrunner to be a prophesied hero to save the world suggests her storyline isn't just a B story or a distraction from the main narrative on Westeros. Rather, her story is the one we're meant to focus on. And in a show where characters frequently stage spectacles to steal the spotlight, the birth of Daenerys' dragons might be the most powerful. A question for you guys: which character do you see as more heroic in Game of Thrones, Daenerys or Jon? I'm honestly split on this. They've both suffered, launched themselves in harm's way repeatedly, made tough, unpopular decisions. I just go back and forth on which of them I really rally behind. So I want to know your thoughts. Comment down below and tweet me directly at EA Voss, or follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. Like this video, share it around, and subscribe to New Rockstars for all of our Game of Thrones analysis. You can check out my past videos where I dug into Ned Stark's death and the Golden Crown scene, and deep dives into all the episodes of Season 6 and 7. You can also help this channel by contributing to us on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our donors, especially Kenny Smith. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.